As you can see here, we have the spine, and then we have the top of those Y bones. I can see them very clearly. We're back at home and it's time to clean that pike. The method we use to fillet pike is called the 5 fillet method. Maybe you've heard about it, maybe you haven't. I'm gonna get that pike up here and I'm gonna demonstrate the 5 fillet method. Maybe you're a fisherman who's caught pike before, but because of those nasty Y bones, you don't like filleting them and you end up just throwing them back and you don't want to eat them because they're so bony. This is the way to do it. This is the way where you can get the meat off, have boneless fillets, and leave the Y bones with the carcass and toss it. And so we're going to get to it, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now, this pike has already been gutted at the lake, as you can see. Now, I'll explain the cuts right now, and then I'll explain them again as I'm doing them. The first cut that we're gonna do is the back strap. There's actually some meat along here, and the spine doesn't run along the top. It actually runs a little lower. So you can take off that meat until that last fin there. That's one fillet. Then we're gonna go for the 2 tail fillets, and they start right where we're gonna end, right at that fin, and we're gonna go down. And that's where a lot of those Y bones and rib bones end, and this is just meat. So we're gonna take off one fillet there, and then we're gonna flip it over again from this point, and we're gonna take that fillet off. Then we're gonna be left with just the meat on the sides. The 2 tails will be gone, and the back strap will be gone. And then we're gonna look at the top. We're gonna be able to see those Y bones once this back strap's gone. And then from there, we're gonna put our knife in on the outside of the Y bones on an angle down, and we'll be able to go right along those and then peel off the meat. Now, a caveat. We are gonna notice a thin layer of meat between the Y bone and the backbone. It's minimal. You have to leave it on there. Some people say it's wasting, but it's very minimal and the whole thing's full of bones anyway. Most of the meat is gonna come off on those 2 cuts on either side. So there's the explanation. Now we're gonna get it done. Okay, so first cut, just behind the head. We're gonna go down until I feel that backbone. So, I don't know if you can see there, we got meat. That's the end of the skull there, and then the meat starts there, and we've gone down to the backbone. So now I'm gonna turn the blade, and I'm gonna go all the way back. And I'm following that backbone. And then I'm gonna turn up right before the fin. There we go. The important part is these 2 sides, the 2 back straps here, there is no bones in those. So, as you can see here, we have the spine, and then we have the top of those Y bones. I can see them very clearly. All right. Now we're gonna take our tail cuts off. I go down to the spine, and then flex out. There you go. That's the second fillet, totally boneless. There it is. And then the next one, again, right by that fin. You hear some of that crunching. That's the scales mostly. You might hear a little bit when it touches the spine, but not really. But there you go. So boneless fillets there. Now, this is the tricky part. I want to go down. We'll see if you can see that. We got top of the spine and the top of these Y bones on either side. I'm gonna cut down and on an angle inward on the top of those Y bones. And this is a little bit of a delicate procedure. You don't want to push it too hard, and you kind of want to go slow and steady. So I've cut in a little bit and I have some of the meat coming away. Now I'm going to cut down here. So now I can peel away that meat around the ribs. So I don't know if you can see that, but those Y bones are in that. So there's a thin piece of meat there on the top and I can feel all those Y bones. They're all coming in there. And now I can run along here and I can get this fillet. Okay, so now, as you can see there, I have all that side meat. There's no bones in there at all. There it is. Now I'm gonna clean it up a little bit afterwards. There's a bit of the gut sack there and some different things. And obviously we have the skin on the back side. But I want you to notice that we got meat off the pike without bones in it. Now this is where some people say that it's a waste of meat, because here's that spine. I still have to get this side off, but there is, very true, there is a little line of meat here. But what you can't see is this is where those Y bones are. If you were to take off that and try to eat that, you would just be constantly pulling out these little bones. They would get stuck in your cheek and your gums. I've tried it, and maybe you've tried it too. It's terrible, and it's actually why a lot of people don't eat pike, because of this little line of meat. For me, I don't feel bad leaving this bony piece because it's inedible. It's very, very difficult. But as you can see, there still is lots of meat. Maybe you are able to eat that thin piece of meat with all those Y bones in. Maybe let me know in the comments. Maybe there's another way you do it where you don't get all that bone in there. But for me, this is the only way I've been able to do it where I can actually enjoy pike meat and not be pulling out bones all the time. So, like I said, leave a comment. How do you do it? How do you cook pike? Maybe you cook them whole, which I have done over the fire, and then gradually pick the meat out. But even still, this top little section here, it's extremely bony. So, that being said, let's get this other one off here. So this knife is getting dull, mainly because when you're cutting through these scales, it dulls knives really quick. So I always like to have a couple knives sharp and ready, especially when I'm gonna do this Y-bone cut. You need a really sharp knife, you use the tip. If you're trying to press through or use a dull knife, it ends up going badly. So have a couple knives or a few knives that are sharp, ready to go. I'm telling you, you'll be thankful you did when you're doing these Y-bone cuts. You can feel alongside, once you start doing the cuts, I can actually feel the Y bones on the outsides of my fingers. I can feel them there. And on the inside of my fingers, where I'm on the outside of the fish, I can feel it's very smooth. So I know I've made the cut in the right place. And I can kind of hear it. I don't know if you can hear that. You can hear it bumping along those Y bones. Okay, I'm gonna make my cut here behind the gill plate. Sometimes you might have to flip the fish. I was having a little trouble in there, peeling it back, peeling it towards me. So don't be afraid to just flip the fish over, and it's a lot easier to peel out the fillet and cut the fillet out when it's being pushed away from you. And you can actually, I can see the ribs better too. So there's another one. Feels really good. So again, that's what you're left with. If you were looking at any other fish, you would be like, that is a waste. Look at this meat. But I can feel in there, it is packed with bones. See, I'm going through meat here. Can you hear that? Click, 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 click. The whole thing's bone. All full of bone. So normally I would look at that and be like, wow, just eat that, because in our household and the way we fish, our subsistence life, We eat everything we catch, and we eat all sorts of stuff. You've seen us eat hearts and gizzards of birds and all sorts of stuff. But with a pike, it's just too much. So we're okay letting it go full of bones. So now we clean up these fillets, cut the fin off. Fin. The last step I'm going to do is to get off this skin. It does help with gloves. Now, some people try to get like really tight in here and try to get it off. You end up leaving the end of that meat, or it gets lost, or it's just a nothing bit. But if you actually start here, then you have part of a fillet, at least one bite of meat, or you can even go a little further and then you have like a little bit of a fillet, or you have two here. And then you get all the meat. You don't have to try to like get really tight in there. So we go down to the skin. The gloves help to hold just in there. And then slide along that skin. And there you go. That's like a beautiful piece of meat. We go here. Get that top one. There you go. Skin in the garbage. Next one. With this one, it's pretty thin here where the edge of the ribs were. All right, there's one half. Hi, how's it going?
Good. Cutting fish?
Cutting fish.
Looks like good meat.
It is good meat. Look at all that. All boneless. Ready to be beer battered and fried. So there you go, folks. We got quite a lot of meat. So for anyone who said, I don't eat pike, it's too bony, here is the proof that once you process it out, look at this. Beautiful meat. This can be cut into strips maybe for fish sticks. We like to do pike bites, which we cut them into chunks, beer battered, and then deep fried. They're amazing. You can batter them and fry them in the air fryer. If you wanted, you could just do some butter in a pan and just take that, some salt and pepper. Lots of options, but there's no bones in any of this. So keep that pike, keep this video, flag it, use that process, and you'll enjoy pike for the rest of your life. All right, it's the day after that amazing pike fishing day. We ended up coming home with 7 fish. We had to let one go. Luke's was over the size limit according to regulations. It was a huge fish. It was amazing. As you saw, I cleaned and gutted the fish at the site before we left, but now it's time for the filleting. In this video, you've already seen me demonstrate the 5 fillet method for northern pike. I'm just gonna skip to the time lapse and let you see me fillet a few more pike in that same method. I'm probably not gonna film all of them, that's a little redundant, but at least you'll be able to see the process again. It's time to get messy. I got my knives, got my giant cutting board. I'm gonna put on some tunes and get after it.